What's up, everybody? This is Sully, 5 freaking onion rings. So first, I want you to hit that like and subscribe if you like this type of content. But today, I have a very straightforward, very simple, it's actually long and boring to be quite honest, but it's a walkthrough of how to flash Jazzmaverick firmware for your ESC to enable RPM filtering and 96 kilohertz, all the whiz-bang stuff that gets longer flight times, onto a Diatone GTR 349 HD version, which honestly you can use the steps to flash to any of the quads you have that have H or now L type ESCs. I believe I got that right. And then flash Betaflight 4.2 pre-production development code and enjoy yourself, which is exactly what I was flying live the other day and flies very, very, very well. So anyway, smash that like and subscribe if you do like this. Just remember, this is a very just straightforward, pedantic video on how to flash Jazzmaverick and how to update to Betaflight 4.2. Remember, please always remove your props. So if you notice my nuts aren't on, remove your props, use a battery. You will need a battery and your quad. Remove your props or you'll get a face full of nastiness. And trust me, it's painful. So here we go. So since we're doing this straight up from the start, I like to always update my software. Now I'm using Betaflight Configurator. I use the Chrome OS version, but feel free to use your version, whichever. This is in the Jenkins, and it's always the latest up to date, which this one was updated 7 hours ago. And I do that because we're using bleeding edge software here. So save the zip file. It's going to open. All you need to do in Chrome is to drag it over to your Betaflight folder. So you just drag over and it will copy in. Just make a folder. If you've never done this in Chrome, it's pretty simple, but you make a folder, you drop all of the files in. It loads quickly by going to Chrome extensions. You want to do load unpacked, find your folder that you have, open it, and just hit select folder. It's going to load. Now when you go to Chrome/apps, you will have Betaflight right there. And in the future, all you will have to do is drag the new version into this folder and it will just update and open. So now that we have Betaflight updated, let's go ahead and get BL Heli Configurator in, and that's just on the Chrome Web Store. All links are down below, so you just want to launch it. And since we're doing Jazzmaverick, I want to point you over to Smooth as Silk. That's in the RC groups, and this is the full thread with a lot of information, tons of information, 418 pages. But essentially, you'll want to head over to this GitHub page from Jazzmaverick where he has the latest versions. If you go up a level, you can see where he keeps the older versions. 16.7.3 is what I've used in the past, but he's moved up to 16.7.8, which has worked recently. So that's pretty simple. Go into there. We're going into hex files 16.78a, and this will have your new versions with the added PWM 96K, even though it's the naming scheme here is a little weird, but this is all of your firmwares for your most popular ESCs. And some have pointed out they don't go as high, so they go up to 50, there's 90, so it just depends. Now, once we have all that out of the way, we're going to open Configurator to update the ESCs first. Make sure your props are off. I say this 50,000 times. And make sure you have a battery ready and available, but you're going to plug in. Make sure Betaflight is not open, otherwise this does not work. You won't be able to connect if you have Betaflight open in the background. I have done this too many times. If you click read setup and it says connect power to ESCs, then you got to connect power to ESCs. So that's where this comes in. As soon as, there we go, power is in. You want to do this quickly because your VTX will heat up. Hit read setup. Take note, reversed, normal, normal, reversed. That's just because of how I have. We want to do flash off. Oh. The other thing to take note of is CH30 16.77. That's what I have flashed here. Remember that? Go back to your BL Heli what was it called? CH30. So I am looking here for CH30, which is right here. CH30 48 Rev 1678. We're going to click it. We're going to right click on raw and do save link as. That's a little trickier than normal. Then we're going to go BL, just remember where you put it. I'm putting mine in BL Heli Suite 32 is my folder. Just save it off. And I'm reminding myself of where I put it. Go back over to BL Heli Configurator, hit Flash All, CH30, where it says version, don't worry about this so much, but select File manually. I'm going back to my G drive and then BL Heli Suite 32, open, and I should see CH30 Rev. I always check my dates. Obviously I do this a good bit, but I check my dates. That's the correct one, and I hit open. And it's going to flash. It takes just a minute. And you see it changed 16.78, which is my new version. I leave these settings as normal and disconnect. And you'll hear a higher pitch, which is what you want to hear. Now I can close out of BL Heli Configurator and we can move on to our Betaflight newest version 10.7.0. What I always do before updating Betaflight, especially whenever I have a very well flying quad, I connect, I go and look through my settings, but first I'm going to do a backup. We're going to save that off, Betaflight config backups. It has a date stamp, that's what I want. I always like to look through my settings so I know what I'm dealing with here. Ports, I have UART1 and I have UART3 is my IRC tramp. So UART1 serial, IRC tramp on 3, configuration. If you notice I'm running D-shot, I have 12 motor poles. My motor direction is reversed, 4K, 4K. And once again, like I say, I'm just running through my settings so I know what needs to change and what doesn't. PID tune 54. I leave these near defaults normally, but this is after a good bit of tuning, which I like, so I'm going to remember that probably. Nothing new here. Rate profiles, we're good. Filter settings. This RPM filter 100, that means you have one RPM filter, 100, and I adjusted my dynamic notch filter for this 3-inch quad. So these are good. All right, receiver, nothing special here, and I'm good all the way down. Now go to CLI. I like to do diff all. There it is. There we go, diff. Finally, I'm going to save that to file, put it in the same backup place. And the only reason I do that is so I have an idea of what I'm looking for in the new version. And so I have a backup so I can come back to 4.1.2. We're going to connect again. Now I'm using a Fury F4 OSD and I want to activate bootloader. Please note DFU upper right corner. Go to firmware flasher for Fury F4 OSD. I'm using the development version because release candidates have not been done yet. So you have to select development. I choose the last one almost always and check any notes if there's anything. And once that happens, flash firmware. You're about to flash a development build. These are works in progress and it can not work at all, make it not flyable. There are safety issues, which we will cover that in a second, and it can cause the flight controller to become unresponsive. Click I have read and hit flash. Please note, this is definitely something you have to be comfortable with. Otherwise, don't use development versions. Use release candidates are fairly safe, and production is very safe. But that being said, I've never had a problem with a development version that wasn't easily noticed and fixed. And we're connecting. There are custom defaults for this board available. Normally it will not work unless custom defaults are applied. Do you want to apply? Yes. Apply. And it will reconnect. The following problems. These are new to Betaflight Configurator 10.7. The accelerometer is enabled, but it is not calibrated. So one of the things you do want to do is calibrate your accelerometer if you leave it enabled. And Betaflight now tells you to do so, which is very nice of them. So I'm trying to find a flat surface here, which is sometimes easier said than done. Gracious. There we go, flat surface, yeah. And it's definitely not calibrated. This is on a flat table. So calibrate. That's always a good practice anyway. Hit calibrate. Notice Diatone Fury F4 OSD, we are good. Now we're going through setup, ports. UART1's my serial. IRC Tramp is on UART3, save and reboot. Configuration. Here's some of the fun stuff. I have motor direction reversed. I want D-shot 300. You can't really do 600 and it doesn't help too much. Bidirectional D-shot. This is to enable RPM filtering, which is the whole point of doing this. Motor poles. I had 12 motor poles. You can count them. They're the number of magnets. On the motor, you can normally find it in the spec sheet, or you just count them out, but you be very careful that it's correct. My idle speed, I like to be around 4.5% for this particular quad. Moving down, gyro update frequency. Please notice it does not change anymore at all. So you cannot do gyro update, you cannot change it. In the past that actually wasn't changeable, it just took how many times it was capturing. So now that's not an issue. PID loop frequency, you're going to want 4K for this F4 board. You're going to want 4K with D-shot 300. That's just the numbers that line up. I don't know the science behind it, but it has worked very well for me so far, so I don't complain. So 4K, D-shot 300, bidirectional D-shot, and this will get you to RPM filtering, which is very good, the whole reason we're doing this. Arming 25 degrees, I'm changing that to 180 so I can arm in a tree, try to shake myself out. I don't turn on this RSSI ADC analog input anymore. It isn't quite accurate and I don't really use it, nor do I care that much. But if you do like seeing the number, it's there. It's just, please know it's not accurate. I select iBus because that's what I use, and I turn on RX Lost and RX Set. I do RX Lost and RX Set so that I can find this tiny little quad if I land in the grass and the battery's still not ejected. You can have a beeper, that's easier too, but all of these require the battery to be in, so I just use the motors. That's fine. Save and reboot. It's going to pop back up. By the way, make sure you have Enable Expert Mode on, and then there are features where you can reopen last tab on Connect. That's in the little gearbox up here. Permanently enabled, yeah, dark theme, all that. So, should have said that first. I always double check my settings. I always do that because sometimes there are little bugs and quirks. So, if you do see something, please notify a developer. Alright. Now we're going power battery. I normally land at 3.4 with these smaller ones, and I have minimum cell at 3.3. That always bounces back to 3.7, 3.75, which is where I want. Failsafe should be good. I always check stage 1, but 0.4 seconds and drop. That's what you want. So no changes there. PID tuning, here's the fun stuff. Alright, so based on what I had before, if you slide up, you can take your master multiplier up to find where your P gains are, which I like mine in the 50 range, so 50, 55, 36, those look good. And then I slide down, oh wait, oh actually I wanted to slide up my balance and then slide down this one. I want my D gains in the 20s range and I want my P gains in the 50s range. And if you notice, they color code, so if you get into the danger zone, it has a whole color scheme. So like I say, I like mine there because it feels tight and it feels right. P and D gain, you can do it without impacting I gains, which I don't really do. And stick response is for that feed forward area. I like a little bit of a faster one, but that's not a big deal. I might actually drop my P and D gain. That looks close to what I had before. If you're unsure about all this, leave them on default and fly it and see how it flies. Like I say, I know how I like for it to feel, and I normally like it about there. Yeah. And normally I like stick response to be lower, but I'm going to leave it default this time. I do like VBAT PID compensation, so as your battery drops, your PIDs don't really change much. Throttle boost is good, and I like anti-gravity to be around 5. D-min, D-advance, 37 and 20, that should be good. So it will bop up and help your D gains out. Not a big deal here. And here's where you can limit your motor output. That's interesting. That one's new. Automatically activates the first profile that has a cell count equal to the connected battery. Well, that's nice. Attenuates motor commands, reduces ESC current when using higher cell count batteries. Oh, I see. You can get a 6S to fly like a 4S. For similar performance from a 6S build on a 4S, try 66%. For a 4S on a 3S, try 75%. So if you have, that's pretty cool. If you have a 4S quad and you hook up a 6S battery, you can use 66% and get similar performance as if you had a 4S battery on a 4S quad. That's really cool. That's new. iTerm relax, I always leave on. I like it, and I like it on roll and pitch only. So we're going to save there. Going to rate profiles. I always have crazy high rates, which I like. Again, just because I like them. And I don't use Expo. Now I just saw you can use different rate types. Hold up. That's a new thing to me. I do like 1650 for my TPA breakpoint. I don't want to use throttle limit and my mids there. No problem. Save. Now if you want to try race flight rates, you are changing rate type. If you change rate types, your rates will be set to a default curve. That's okay. Race flight. So you can, oh, that's cool. You have rate, acro, expo. So feel free to play around with these. These are interesting. Change again. Now I'm on KISS rates, so that's cool. 5.5, not 15, 1.5. And your rate, let's see. Yeah, still the same number for KISS at least. I just don't know if that makes a big difference, but that's cool. Okay, that's something new. Actual, oh, center sensitivity 200. Oh, now this one might be useful. So if you want a more sensitive center, you can do that, or you can go 50 if you like that smooth curve thing. But you want your max rate to be 14, 16, that's me. or 1420, and it gives you expo that you can do. I don't like expo. Wow, so that is probably obscenely sensitive. Probably more sensitive than I want to be. Yeah, probably. So I'm just going to back it up to Betaflight. Something to play with there, that's pretty cool. Sorry to get distracted. I might end up liking that a lot. So that's cool. Good job, Betaflight developers. So now we are saved. Going over to filters. Here's where I made changes. So this, I only use one filter harmonic and 100 wide. Dynamic notch width percentage a 0 to turn it off. Notch Q 200. Min is 90, max is actually 800. And I could probably bump that min up to about 150. So yeah, min frequency on the RPM filter at 100, notch Q at 200, min notch is going down to 90, max is going to 800. If you decide to change your filtering for gyro low pass, keep the gyro and D term connected and note what changes as you go up. If you go too high, you will get an error message. Most of my quads easily go into this range, but I like to keep it. I don't fly on bleeding edge for the most part, and these have always given me good, it's good stick feel. And yeah, so that should be good. It's just a gyro and D-term multiplier. It changes your top numbers here, and it's much easier to use sliders than to tune each one individually. That is it. After that, receiver, filter, RPYT. These I leave default. They look good. Modes. Always add your stick modes. See if we have anything new here. I do like having a beeper. Aux 5. See if there's anything new. Nothing new. Okay. Save adjustments. We don't use motors. Here's where you can make sure your RPM filtering works. So once again, make sure your props are off. You want to do this quickly. Plugging in. Props are off. What you're wanting here is to make sure you get an error reading of 0%. You want to click I understand the risks because I'm an idiot. And go 1, going up. Make sure your props are off. Got it? Good. Props are off. You're wanting no higher than 1% error, 0 being ideal. And you might not want to go all the way high, all the way to the top without props on, because that can damage ESCs. But that was just a test, just to make sure RPM filtering is working. If you don't get this, R and E down here, if you get nothing, then your RPM filter is not enabled, and you have to go back to configuration and start over from there. But we are going to unplug the battery here. That was exactly what I wanted to see. Nothing else to change. OSD you can set up however you like. Going down to CLI, here's where you can double check that your filtering is going to work, and also a different test. So tasks, TASKS, gives you how your CPU is performing. PID loop is 22%, which is good. Gyro and filter here, 8,000, 4,000, that used to be CPU cycle dependent, so you used to have issues with it, but now it is locked 100%, which is very good. So they changed how that's being done. UAV Futures has a long explanation on this. and it's very good. I don't know what they changed, but I know I like it better. So tasks, enter, and it'll tell you 58% your max load. That's not bad. You just don't want it to be in the 60-70 range. 58 is getting close, obviously, but not horrible. So it's very good this way. Other than that, you do want to check get runaway, and you want to see runaway takeoff prevention. See what it is. It's set to on, and that's something you want to be on, because if you ever put your props on backwards, it will save your bacon. Trust me. Otherwise, this prevents flyaways, obviously. And other than that, if you're really good at reading, you can sort through and see all of the new features. But I haven't had a chance to really look at the new features in Betaflight 4.2. But they are here, if they are here. And yeah, I believe most of the changes are to how it flies in the internal codes. Not as much of like launch control or the really cool stuff we got there for a while, I believe. But once it's released, we will know a much better range on it. Now, I have flown this, not on the Diatone, but on my TR69, and I absolutely love it. What I'm personally drawn towards is in here. What I really like, these PIDs and the settings and the way you can filter, this is great, along with the RPM filtering, keeps my motors cool, as very useful. Once you just enable bidirectional D-Shot, D-Shot 300. I also like an OSD, much like with a BL Heli 32, you can get, where is it? You can get RPM, ESC RPM, or RPM frequency. It's the same numbers. So I don't know what the difference is between RPM and RPM frequency. But anyway, you can slide those over. If you ever wondered if you had a weak motor, that's an easy way to tell. And other than that, it's just really good. It flies so well, and I really like it. So I want to thank you so much. I'm going to flip back over. That's it at the computer. So there you have it, the live real-time setup of a Diatone GTR 349 with Jazzmaverick RPM filtering and that 96K. Now I will tell you, 96K isn't as big of a bump as 48K was from 24. So 24 is obviously the standard, and then 48 gets you longer flight times on those smaller motors. So if you have like an 1104 or even up to a 1408 motor, then you will get better flight times and you will enjoy that. Like I got a 7-minute flight on a 550 battery on a Tiro, which was unheard of for me. And I love it. It's great and it's smooth, and RPM filtering is fantastic. JESC gives you the longer flight times, but not RPM filtering for free. So I went with Jazzmaverick in this case. But please, please, please support the developers. So JESC, definitely give them a lot of support. And other than that, if you like this, give me a thumbs up. It was long, I totally admit that, but sometimes you need that full walkthrough, especially I do, so I can go back later and go what I really have, what I change, you know, things like that. But I want to thank you all, and we will talk to you later.